So, my name's Talon. I'm here with the Hookcast for the Music Hook, and today we are fortunate enough to interview Jay Warren.
How you doing?
So,
Good to see you, man.
good to see you too. So, last time I saw you was at the Underdog Concert Series in Provo.
Yeah.
Well, what was your experience like there?
It was a good time. It was a really good time. Yeah. I had a lot of fun. We let's see who was there. Bree Ray, Carvel. It was a good time. It was a good time. That was actually my first show with like my full band.
Oh wow!
So yeah, that was cool. It was a cool experience.
Kind of a debut.
Yeah, right.
That's cool.
Yeah, for sure.
That's cool.
It was fun.
I noticed that you brought a lot of the family types. There were all these cute couples with babies and stuff.
Yes, that is compliments of I think my wife and I's relationship. Like we're, if you're on Instagram, like we're very like family oriented, and so like a lot of like couples with kids, without kids, like end up coming out and supporting and stuff. So it's cool.
That's
and
cool.
You get like 2 fans for the price of 1.
Right.
Because, if they're couples, for sure.
I love that. Watching those little kids like made the show even better.
Yeah, I think. Oh, I had Winston on stage with me for
that
one
was
of the
adorable.
numbers. Yeah, dude, he's funny. He's a crazy kid. I mean, he's
he?
only 1, but he's so funny. Yeah, he's way funny.
Got a huge personality.
Honestly, he's so social. Like, when we're driving or walking anywhere, cars that drive by, he's like, "Hi," or like people at the zoo, like every single person that walks by, "Hi, bye." Like, he's so funny.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. That's awesome. What's it like being a musician with a family and keeping those priorities straight?
Yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily know any different. So it's a balancing act though, for sure, because like I think when you work like a traditional like 9 to 5, it's really easy to separate like work from home life, because you're at work from 9 to 5 and then you come home and you're at home, right? But with music, your hours are rarely 9 to 5,
right? And
more times than often you're either working at your home, like an in-home studio, or you're working like late Friday, Saturday nights at a show or something like that. And so it's definitely a balancing act. Like, you have to be a self-starter in the sense that you are the only one that is going to make work and family distinctions, and like you have to try very hard to balance the two. So yeah, I mean the best way to describe it is it's a balancing act. Yeah.
It seems like you've really hit a sweet spot.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I'm glad it comes across that way.
No, I definitely think a lot of musicians could learn from you.
Cool.
That.
Yeah, I mean, so I'm fortunate to have a super supportive wife, Annie, and yeah, she allows me to like work and get music stuff done, and like her goals are my goals and my goals are hers, and so it's super helpful having a spouse that is supportive. So.
And she's an artist herself, right?
Yeah. So she's definitely creative. She grew up like singing, dancing, doing musicals. And then she professionally, she has like a 9 to 5, but yeah, she sings really well, and so she was on "Fall Asleep with You," a song we did last year. So yeah.
And that's one of your biggest songs on Spotify.
Yeah, it's doing really well. I think it's at like 300,000 or somewhere around there streams. Yeah, we're actually recording I guess it's like a re-release, semi-acoustic version of that. Yeah, so that'll come out within the next month or so.
Oh, that's exciting. Is there anything else that's coming out soon that we should look for?
Yeah, so that'll probably be the next thing. That I'm not sure if it's a fully acoustic version yet. We've got some strings and we're playing around with the mix right now. But so another version of "Fall Asleep with You," and then we'll probably do some remixes of "Amaze Me," like some more like dance club kind of remixes. And then after that, it is new singles, and then an album. So, yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So right now in your process this summer, are you focusing on like writing and recording? Is that?
Yeah, yeah. I've like just recently switched like where my priorities are
Uh-huh.
in terms of music. Um, I think I was putting like the cart before the horse,
Oh.
to where like I was super focused on like marketing and branding, um, and then realized like, wait a second, like the music is like the most important part of all of this. And so I've been like shifting my focus towards like writing, recording, production, and then allowing like my manager and label to do the other things. So
Delegate
yeah,
a little bit.
yeah, exactly,
Uh-huh.
exactly, because like my strengths are the music stuff, and like I have a good idea for like marketing and branding and stuff like that, but um, yeah, I've been like passing that stuff off so that I can just focus on the music. Mm-hmm.
What's So what was it like when you were focused on the marketing and stuff? Like, what platforms were the most useful? Or
Oh yeah, for sure. So I mean, I think it's different for every artist, right?
Mhm.
For me, I have a pretty good following on Instagram, and so building a brand there, and then with Spotify, the label that I'm with has a pretty good relationship with Spotify, and so being able to work um, kind of like with the Spotify algorithms and editorial playlisting, that was another like big piece of it. And then myself, my manager, and designer, we built a branding deck, so that we would have a really clear definition of aesthetically what the brand looks like, so that when we're like pitching, it's everything is like really what's the word, like concise and put together, like it looks well packaged,
Right.
basically. So I was spending so much time in those details that I had gotten away from the whole point of it, which was the music. And so recently, like on a trip to New York, in like talking to people, I just kind of had this like growing moment of being like, I need to get back to the music, like focus on the music and let the label, my manager, focus on all the other stuff.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're the creator, so.
Right, yeah, and that's like that's what I need to do. That's where my focus needs to be. That's where my strengths are, and so being able to basically, primarily focus on music, has been really refreshing.
That's really cool. That's really cool. So as far as traveling and stuff, you've been to New York, and weren't you on some tours recently as well?
So yeah. Most recently, yeah, I was in New York with a friend of mine, James the Mormon. Yeah, so we spent some time in New York, meeting people, networking with labels, and that was great. Honestly, it's like, I mean, you always hear, it's who you know, it's who you know, it's who you know. It's literally who you know. Like, it's absolutely who you know. So yeah, we spent some time out there, and hopefully we'll be kind of going back and forth, and just continuing to like network and grow relationships out there. So yeah, so did that, and then my wife and I also both sing in the Saints Unified Voices Choir, directed by Gladys Knight.
Oh, wow.
And so we get to tour the country with her in that choir. So most recently we were in North Carolina, Mississippi, and Louisiana. Yeah. And then I think we start up again in the fall. So, yeah, doing that is a ton of fun.
Huh.
And just like amazing experience singing with Gladys Knight. She's like a legend. Like deserves that title 100%. Yeah, she's amazing.
And so you said that's oh, hi there. You said it's the Saints Unified.
Saints Unified Voices, yeah,
Voices.
directed by Gladys Knight.
So what's the composition of that? Is it like a big choir, or like?
Yeah, so
what's
it's a gospel choir.
Uh-huh.
Gospel choir, and we do gospel music.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, it's about, I want to say like 75 to 100 members in the choir. And then we travel with more, like 75-ish, around that number. and yeah, so we just kind of travel and do shows, firesides, and then Gladys speaks and just kind of like shares her story, and it's honestly like it's the most fulfilling music that I've been a part of. Um, and then I mean, hopefully, as my projects continue to grow and take off, that'll be fulfilling also. But
Yeah.
well, it is fulfilling now. But like, yeah, working with the choir and with her is amazing.
That's great. And it's probably awesome that you get to see all these different venues and get to tour.
Well, what's funny is that so all of like our friends and family are like, dude, it's so cool you guys get to travel and da 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 da. All of the shows that we do with the choir, they're purposely held in LDS buildings,
Oh, really?
like stake centers.
Wow.
And so I've seen just about every like stake center layout that there is, and aside from that, like a tour bus. Yeah, it's super funny. But this last time we were in Louisiana, we got to spend some time in like Bourbon Street and went down in New Orleans, and so like that was fun. We were there during Jazz Fest, so there was a ton going on. Like Lenny Kravitz was around. It was cool. It was really cool.
That's a little bit different than
Yeah, it is.
all
It
these
is.
big
It
venues and
is.
stuff.
Yeah.
Huh. So as far as your performances, then, like, you've done a lot in Utah. Well, what's it like being a performing artist in Utah? Or do you have a favorite venue or favorite people to perform with?
Let's see. Favorite venue. I don't know that I have a favorite venue yet. So much of what I've done up to this point has been with other people that this is like the beginning of me being able to kind of work with the venues on my own. And so I think I'm still navigating like favorite venues.
Right.
But I've always had good experiences at Valor. I mean, that's like a staple, right, in the state. And so, yeah, I've always had good experiences at Valor. The guys that mix there, I know really well. And actually, one of them is a producer that I work with, Chance Clift. So, yeah, really like Valor. In Salt Lake, let's see, where have I performed in Salt Lake? I've done most things like at outdoor areas, and so, but I'm getting ready to do one at the Gallivan Center, and so that'll be cool. I haven't performed there like on my own yet, and so that'll be cool. And then at what is it called? Craft Lake City. That's where I believe that's the one at the Gallivan Center. So yeah, that's coming up this summer, and then at Electric Park, end of summer in the fall, or beginning of fall, we're doing the Glue Fest.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Glue Fest. Yeah, so that'll be cool, and that will be on my own as well. And so, yeah. But anyway, I mean, like performing in Utah is tons and tons of fun because there's so many musicians here and so many different venues, and the people are like amazingly supportive of their local acts. That I think that it's really easy to not only find a fan base, but to engage with that fan base as well. And so I love it.
So would you say like people in Utah love local music then?
Yeah.
Local artists?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I mean, if you compare it to like hip hop and rap, like rappers always have like their city, right? Like Kendrick Lamar has LA and Jay-Z has New York, and I think here in Utah, the people like want to support their people, and like they want to push their artists forward, and so like artists that come back or that make it and then come back, like Imagine Dragons, Neon Trees, the Aces are like absolutely doing their thing. Like Utah loves to like own them and be like, I mean like not own them, but you know what I mean, like just support them and just
Utah's
show up
cool.
for them. Yeah, right. Absolutely. Like Utah has some of the most talented people in my opinion. I mean, it's difficult being geographically where we are because we're not as close to LA, New York, Atlanta, but Nashville. But the talent is like next level. Absolutely.
Why do you think there's a concentration in Utah like that?
Dude, I don't know. I honestly don't know. I don't know what it is. I mean, you obviously have such like a high LDS population, and I mean, I've always heard that like Mormons can sing. So like I didn't grow up in Utah. I grew up in San Diego, or went to high school in San Diego, and I remember being in like choir in high school. My choir teacher, was not LDS. She was like, I need you to go and find me all the Mormon kids because all of you guys can sing. I was like, okay, I didn't know that was like a thing, but okay. I don't know what it is. Because it's definitely not just that all LDS people can sing. But there's just a lot of talented people here, and maybe it's just cheaper than California.
Yeah.
So like we
It's
live
a lot
here.
cheaper.
I don't know. Yeah.
That's cool. All right, for those of you who are watching this on YouTube, you can catch the rest of the interview on the podcast. We'll leave a link down in the description. But one thing that I wanted to talk about with you is what your development as an artist was like. How did you get into music? How did you find your sound? What was that like? Finding your identity in music.
I feel like that is such an ongoing process, like finding your identity, because I feel I'm still doing that, you know. But at the beginning, I'll take you through the timeline.
Uh-huh.
I was born September 28th, 1991. Great day. I think it was a Friday. My family's always been involved in the arts. My grandfather was an actor. My mom was a dancer. And then, so yeah, I've just kind of always grown up around the arts. So I was singing since I can remember. And then I kind of grew up doing like school choirs, church choirs. And then in high school, my senior year of high school, is when I wrote like my first song. I didn't play any instruments, but one day I was like, I'm gonna teach myself to play the piano. So I just like took a week, locked myself inside the house, learned some chords, and then wrote a song and came out and like showed my friend. I was like, hey, I wrote a song. Oh, and I play the piano now. He's like, what? What are you doing? Yeah. So yeah, after that, came to school at BYU, started a band. We recorded some music that was like, it was like pop synth, like Vampire Weekend inspired,
Nice.
like Block Party, like very different from like what I write now and what I naturally perform. But it was like way fun experience. And so that was my first experience like doing music like professionally, if you will, or getting paid to make music.
Right.
So yeah, that was a ton of fun. We recorded an EP, and then when I came home from serving a mission is when I met James the Mormon, Najee, Mimi Knowles, and they were doing like hip-hop remixes, and they would rap and I would sing like the hooks and choruses, and then past that it's just been a lot of working with other artists in the state, some out of the state, and then most recently I think I've developed my sound to where it's like an alternative R&B, down-tempo, mid-tempo, just like really smooth sound. Last year, 2017, put out a song called Closer. That was like my debut single, which I'm biased, but like I love that song. I really, really love that song. So I think that sound is more where I'm headed this year. And then I put out a few covers and like Dirty Diana, Bad Moon Rising, that are like a little bit more left field, a little more electronic, a little more heavy. Tons of fun to make, but helped me to realize like those are fun. I enjoyed it, not necessarily what my sound is. So this year, as I'm continuing to like grow and find myself, it's headed towards more of that sound of Closer.
Right.
And you'll see like when we come out with this re-release version of Fall Asleep With You. Yeah, it's a little more down tempo, soft, sultry. I think that's the right word for it. But yeah, I mean you'll see.
Yeah, because Closer was the song that I wanted to talk to you about.
Oh, cool. Oh, well, good, because I love talking about it.
Because that's the one, when I was listening to your music, that's the one that struck me emotionally the most.
Cool.
There was something about it that just hooked me.
Yeah.
Is there like a story behind it, or is there something you can share about?
Yeah, absolutely. The way that Closer came about, it's actually funny. I think most times, like, artists will take, like, the Taylor Swift approach and, like, write about either themselves or someone they know or something like that. Um, the story in Closer is completely, like, made up in my mind. Like, it's almost like a script that I wrote. So I started with that one. I think my process was I started the piano, just messing around with some chords, and then found a progression I liked, then just started humming. And the very first thing I came up with was actually the first line of the song, was the, "How could I expect you to wait for me like lovers do when I wasn't there for you?" Didn't come out exactly like that the first time, but like that came up with that,
Right.
Those lyrics.
Uh-huh.
And so after that, I just stopped, stepped away from the piano, and I was like, okay, what is this story? Like, what is that sentence, or what piece of the story is that sentence?
Huh.
And then I came up with this storyline about, and I mean, I guess a portion of it is autobiographical, but I think so many people can relate to it.
Right.
In that the story, though, is that there's this guy in a relationship that feels like he can't be there emotionally for like the girl or his partner in the relationship.
Right.
So he's like, you needed me closer than I'm able to give you,
Right.
and it's like eating him up inside, and he's kind of like toiling with it, and I think between like the chords and it's it feels very minor on purpose, and it feels really cold and kind of blue because the character in the story, that's exactly how he feels. He's like, he wants to be there in this relationship, but because of, in my storyline, it was like mental illness, it was like depression that didn't allow him to fully be emotionally present. So yeah, I think it's like really relatable, just because I think we've all had a time where like either we wanted to give more to someone or we wanted to receive more, and that person wasn't giving it to us. But yeah, as I've talked to people, it just feels like this really relatable emotion that
Yes.
people can resonate with.
I think that principle of having a story, like, I think that's an incredible way to write, because that is universal. Like,
Right.
everyone loves a good story.
Yeah.
Everyone does.
Yeah.
Movie, book, whatever.
Absolutely. Like the story has to be there, right? When I was talking to, or I did an interview at Park City TV earlier this year, and Terry there asked me, he was like, there's always this vein of, it seems like sadness or longing or like in your music, but you seem to have a pretty like happy life.
Right.
And I laughed about it because like he was right. Like I have a really like pretty nice life. Like my wife likes me, and like we have a pretty cute kid, and things are going pretty well. But when I write music, I feel like naturally I tend to write these more like melancholy themes, and I've realized that I think it's because I feel like it's more relatable than the fairy tale ending and the happy-go-lucky, because I think
I like that.
not everyone will get their happy ending or their happily ever after.
Right.
But at some point, 110% of us have either been let down or felt like, felt sad, or felt like our expectations weren't met. And so I think that it's so relatable, and my hope is that like through music I can help people of like different backgrounds and circumstances to relate to the same emotions and realize that like, you know what, we've all been sad, we've all been left, or we've all been depressed at some point or another, but that's a universal like human experience, and we can relate over that regardless of where we come from.
I know, especially for me, like, music has been one of those things that's helped the most.
Hmm.
And like you said, it's not the happy-go-lucky or poppy stuff.
Yeah, not
that you
always. I mean,
gravitate
there's a
to.
time for it, right?
Yeah,
Absolutely,
yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, but when you're like going through a challenge or something,
Mhm.
Like it's almost like you have another friend there when you can connect to it.
Yeah, yeah. I hope I try to like write the soundtrack to experiences. Like I almost hope like my music is like experiential to where like someone will have an experience in their life and they'll be like, man, this Jay Warren song perfectly encapsulates
Right.
what I'm currently going through.
Right.
Yeah.
I love that. That's what Closer is for me. So.
Cool. Cool. Well, I'm
So
glad.
thank you
I'm
for
glad.
that.
I'm glad. I'm glad.
So before we wrap up, is there any people you want to give a shout out to or anything you want to plug?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Okay, all the people. All right, all the shout outs. Let's see. Shout out my wife Annie. She's amazing. She's incredibly supportive. So thank you, honey. My perfect son Winston, who has 4 teeth now. So congratulations on that. Let's see. All the producers that I work with. Chance Clift, Mike McClellan, Nate Waite. Writing partner Sean Rooney, Joe Latu, let's see, good friend and almost like music mentor at this point, James Mormon, shout out to you. Music that is coming up, so like I said, look out for Fall Asleep With You, that re-release, that'll be coming up like in the next month or so. We'll have a few remixes of Amaze Me, and then after that, it's just like new singles, and an album. So, oh, and shout out my manager Haley because she does a ton of work. So, thank you.
Thank you, Haley.
Yes, thank you, Haley. Oh, yeah, you probably talked to Haley
Yeah.
at some point. Yeah, thanks, Haley. Appreciate it.
All right. Well, we're gonna leave all of your social media, your music, your Spotify,
Cool.
everything on Apple, in the links in the description, and we'll look forward to seeing you guys next time.
How could I expect you to wait for me like lovers do?